Yesterday, on introduction day, we had a little more detailed discussion on evolution of temples in terms of material, building components, shapes, the temple styles, and how did it expansion over the period. So in that, the last portion, expansion, was left out for want of time. So we are continuing from there. And today we are going to see the Vimana and the first part of the Vimana from bottom to the roof. Upapeda, Adhisthana, Biti, and Prastara. So this aspect, today we are going to see how the Dravida temples, which are being, which came with a small beginning, a simple Vimanam, and then a small Ardha Mandapa in front. From there, how it expanded into a grand temple with so many mandapas, grand Vimana, and so many enclosure structures all over the place. So, to understand how we have gone through the evolution, yesterday we talked about three major building blocks of a temple. So, we talked about Vimana, we talked about the mandapas, where people do all sorts of functions, and we talked about gopuras, which are entrance gateways to the temple complex, in line with the pragara or the wall structure. So let us take the example of Tamil Nadu, and from 600, that is from the times of early Pallavas and the early Pandyas, okay, how it expanded up to the Cholas, and then later Pandyas, Vijayanagara, and then Nayaka kings, and then later on, many of the trade communities supported the development. So we'll see how a simple Garbhagraha or a simple Vimana kind of thing expanded into a huge temple complex. Primarily, I am taking Shiva temple for want of specific examples. The same thing will apply with the light variations to the Vishnu temples. So, this started around Pallava times with only sanctum, a small building, a rectangular building with a roof, and either superstructure on top of it or like a flat mandapa kind of a temple. So this is the preliminary temple. No further access. Most of the smaller temples started this way. Later on the outer walls, they added more Deva costumes. So possibly on the western side, if it is a Shiva, on the west it will be Vishnu, and north Brahma, and south Dakshinamurti. So there is mention. So east is this side. This is east. So later on, gradually, the physical components or the Dvajastamba, and then Balipeda and Vahana Mandapa also came. Vahana Mandapa for the deity, either Nandi, in this case Nandi, or if it is a Shakta temple, it will be Simha, like that. Later on, then for the advantage for the people's benefit and for prayer and other things, there was an extension Ardha Mandapa, which was normally done either during Pallava period or later Chola period and expanded. And this is where with entrance on four sides, and then to see the Garbhagriha. Then it is further expanded into for during Chola period or late Pallava period, 800, 900 times. Many of the temples, the existing temples were expanded further by adding a Mahamandapa where all the functions and the pujas and dances, everything. Then the Parivara Devata started coming. By the time the canteen is already established, we have the Madapalli or the cookhouse on the corner, on the southeast corner, where fire is identified. And in these two corners, Vinayaka and Muruga started getting settled in the two corners. And later on, by later Chola or early later Pandyas kind of time frame, Shakta Amman Sanati, Amman means Parvati shrine, was added. If you see many of the Shiva temples, in particular in Tamil Nadu, Shiva is always assumed to be with Parvati. And during Pallava times, there is an ideal of Somaskanda behind the Nandi. This is, it will be in this place. So, Parvati is assumed to be part of the sanctum. Later on, around 10th century, there was a variation, and around 10th, 11th century from Kulotanga period, they started separate Shakti sanctums facing south on the northern side. So existing temples, usually it will be built in the Mahamandapa as an extension, or it will be built somewhere as a separate connection. New temples, they constructed one more temple on similar lines parallel to this, like Airavati. Later on, we also got Navagrahas. Navagrahas were never part of Shiva temples till 10th century, and they were normally in sculptures. Like in Odisha, they are not worshipped separately, but in the lintel, when you enter, there is the 9 people stand together as a group photograph. Here, there was a separate enclosure on the northeast corner that started developed around 11th century. And by the time Vijayanagara people came, they started developing big walls around each of these enclosures and started putting roofs on top of all these structures. Then they built mandabas all over the place, Nirtha Mandapa, Kalyana Mandapa, are the many mandapas around this place. The final thing during Pandya times and later Vijayanagara period, due to the war and Muslim invasion, they started building grand big walls, outer perimeter walls around the temples, and they also started building the gopuras as big gopuras. Earlier gopuras were not mandatory; they were fairly small. Now around 13th century, they started becoming taller than the Vimana. So this is how, from a small sanctum like this, more and more parts were added during different periods by different dynasties to come up with a big complex like this. So next time when you see and go to the temple, then you can identify by the structure, by the way some of the pillars and other things are designed. You can identify which dynasty would have built which building or a complex. Now we are coming to Vimana. In Vimana components, Vimanas were earlier structured in wood, mortar, and brick. The earlier structures that were available in Mahabalipuram reflect the kind of huts that were there in that period around 6th century, and they converted that into rock cut monolithic temples. This progressed into a beautiful and very complex and grand 14th-tier temple like Barkadisra by turn of 10th century. Give me a minute. My power is fluctuating. I may get dropped out for a minute.
Yes, okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. So now, a easy way to identify the components of a temple is that a temple can be visualized like our body or a person standing upright, or it can be visualized something similar to our normal house. This is my old house. So here also we have a fairly simple temple. So all these things are same in terms of structure, and the temple is built or the Vimana is built the same way like these two. So let us see one by one. So here we have the legs part. This is called as Adhisthana in Dravida temple architecture. You can see the number one here and here. So this is the base foundation part, and here also we see a foundation for this. So if you see this from the temple vertical plumb line, it is expanding further and further to give a strong base. The second part is the body, which is equivalent to the wall in the house, and the same kind of a wall is called bitti here. The third component is the chest or the shoulder here. This is equivalent to the sunshade or the slope here, which prevents rain and gives shade from the sunlight. The same function is done by the roof and the kapota that is getting projected from here. This is the called roof or prastara. The fourth part is your neck. Your neck is slightly inside, like that. This is slightly constructed front balcony. And if you see this portion is like our neck, constructed and small. And again, it handles the head portion. So this is like the top portion is like shikara or the top portion of this. This is the same equivalent shikara, which is a bulbous thing. It can be in different ways. Here we need to, okay, let us complete stupi. So your hair or your hairstyle is your crown, and there is a called as stupi here. So in Vimana we see a stupi. Where is a stupi in your house? So you can see this TV antenna. This is the stupi for a house. So if you look back, instead of trying to understand different parts and then memorizing it like this, if you visualize it as a house or a body, and then compare this like leg as Adhisthana and body as Viti, shoulder as Prastara, and your neck as Griva, and head as Shikara, and crown as a Stupi. So this is an easy way, and this is the default 6 parts of any Dravida temple. It is called Shatanga temple, 6-part temple. So these 6 parts is the primary components you need to understand and keep it in mind. Now, let us start with the rudimentary structure. We saw the Draupadi Ratha from Habalipuram. So again, that represents the earlier huts that were available during prehistoric period, 3rd century, 4th century. The same hut structure is represented here. So comparing our earlier nomenclature, okay, this is your Adhisthana, the base, and there is one more component called Upapida, which is like a pedestal. Here, this is primarily to raise the height and ensure that it is slightly raised from the ground level. The same function of Upapida is done by a collection of rocks here, and this is your Adhisthana or the base. On top of it, you have a wall or this is the Bitti. And here there is no roof. And the Shikara, straight away, the roof itself is sloped as a Shikara. So this is the Shikara as a Kutakara. This roof is called Kutakara Shikara. And the Stupi has not been installed and it is kept here. What is this Stupi? Why? How come it is coming as a Stupi here? Earlier, during, if you see the earlier structures, the prime members, there will be one big log coming from here, there will be one big log coming from there. Like that, 4 logs will be joined together and they'll be tied, and there will be a huge mundo or a joint here. So this is what is started getting represented as a stupi in this kind of vipanas. So having seen a very basic temple, let us go little more deeper into the other components. Before we start analyzing the components, let us first see the ground plans, the shape on which the building is structured. The possible shapes that are available in a temple agamas for Dravida temples is like this. The normal one, the easiest one, this is a Chaturasa, square. And then, this is a cut paste, and this is a rectangle. So between these two are right angle things. This is typically Nagara shapes. The next batch is the acute angles generated by hexagon, six-sided, or octagon, eight-sided structure. These are typical Dravida shapes. In between, this is normally assigned to Shiva, this is to Brahma, and there are shapes where there are no angles or only curves. So the other plan is a circle, Vritta in Sanskrit. The second option is the eclipse, where Vritta Aita, elongated circle. The third one is our famous and very, very unique design in Dravida. That's absidal design. So basically what it is done is one square plus half circle. Okay, it is the Divya. The next option is racetrack. Like you have a rectangle, to that you join two half circles. So this is called Ayata Vrittam. It is different from the Vritta Ayata. So if you see, there are the Agama text describes multiple weird kind of different designs. Probably they might have got temples like that, but we are not seeing many. And what we see is the basic 8 shapes which are available in South India. So out of these 8, let us see the popular ground plans one by one. So now you know this is the Nagara shape square, and the temple will look like this. The temple structure, the square plan, all the components will be squares. The second one, the rectangular plan, and then the entire temple will be elongated. Normally, for Vishnu temples, this will be elongated plan, and particularly Sayana Vishnus. The third one is a circular Vesara format, where the entire temple will be circular, with the proper structures. The variation of this is the Gajaprishta. You see the temple here. There is a, if you see from side on, this is the rectangular part or the square part, and there is a semicircular part. So the temple, the entire temple will be going straight and then getting into curve and then again going straight. The variations in the pure Dravida style is the octagonal or hexagonal shapes, where from bottom up to the crown, the entire building or the Vimana is in the same shape. So if the entire Vimana from bottom to top consists of the same shape, this is called the Shuddha Vimana. Or if it is mixing 2 or 3 shapes, it is called the Misra Vimana. So when you see a square shape all along, then it is a Shuddha Nagara Vimana. You see a square base and you have a circular top. Okay, so it is a Mishra Vimana, and then it becomes a Vesara Mishra Vimana. So when the many shapes are there, so we usually go by the shape of the shikara. In this aspect, I want to highlight some of the terminologies which are different between the Nagara structure and the Vesara structure. In Nagara, when you talk about Shikara, the Shikara is the entire component. Okay? But when it comes to Dravida, the Shikara means only this, the bulbous portion. And also, the Vimana in northern structure is the superstructure here, whereas in south, in the Dravida style, when you talk about the Vimana or when I say that parts of the Vimana, this is the entire section from bottom to the top is represented as a Vimana. That's why in today's structure, in today's session, the focus is on the Vimana, on the understructure. That is from the bottom up to this roof, we are going to discuss. So having seen that plan, we go into the sanctum now. Now we know in what ways the ground plan can be designed. And based on the ground plan, we first start with the Garbhagriha or sanctum. Okay, in Tamil it is called Karuvarai. This sanctum has got number of components in a normal temple, and it may have all the components or some of the components. So this is the ground plan of Rajarajeshwaram temple, which is the original name of the Tanjavur temple, which is a Sarvadopatram class of Vimana. So this is a very complex Vimana. This is the other mandabas are not represented here. So your entrance will be from here, and then you come to the Antarala. We will see these terms a little later. So this is the sanctum. The entire square or rectangle is a sanctum. In many cases, your outer definition may be square, and normally the inner design is also square. In some cases, inner may be circular or outer circular and inner square is possible. So this is again design based on the mandala. We will talk about mandala a little later in the next class. I will show you a brief diagram of how mandalas look like. There, the central portion will be a Garbhagriha, where if it is a Shiva temple, the Linga will be stationed. Okay. This can be rectangle if the Garbhagriha, like we said, saw earlier, it can be in any shape, but internal design also can be in any shape. When we enter, for some of the temples, there is a Pradakshina Pada around the sanctum linga inside the Vimana itself. This is different from the Pradakshina Pada, which is outside the Garbhagriha. That is only a convenience. Here it is actually functional. The point is that this circular ambulatory path is called Sandara Nali. And this is optional. So when you say Sandara, it means that there is a circular passage inside the area of the Vimana. The purpose is that instead of having one wall which takes the entire load of the Vimana, and particularly imagine a granite Vimana, there are two sets of wall which goes up to a certain height and then join together so that the load of the Vimana is distributed in two places by adding more weight. So it is not just one wall here, there are two walls. So that is the engineering aspect of Sandara Nadi. So this temple or this Vimana is called Sandara Vimana. If there are no Sandara passage, normally it is called as Nirandara Vimana because it is permanently one wall. Normally, if you see North Indian temples, in many temples, there are multiple entrances on all the four cardinal directions. But in South, normally there will be only one entrance. Other entrances will be closed by window or window-like structure. They are called Ganadwara. The Abhishekam water coming out of it normally will be coming from the northern side into a tank. This is called, the drain is called the Pranala, which is the normal term used in North Indian structure also. So from here, the Garbhagriha is under the Vimana always. So this is the main Vimana component. So there is an adjoining joint which connects the Garbhagriha to the Adha Mandapam or the other Mandapam. So it is called Antrala or a passage. So sometimes this passage will have direct exit or entrance for the devotees to come and see, or come by this and then exit by this. So this is the basic components and definitions that are usually done in a sanctum and sanctum walls. So outside there will be normally many costumes. Here it has got a huge collection of whatever the intention here is the costumes. And in all these costumes, we have deities, different deities according to the direction and according to the organs. So this is sanctum. So far we are clear. Any quick questions? Hello?
Perfectly clear.
Okay.
Babu sir,
Yes,
it's Nageshwar Rao. Good evening.
good evening.
Sir, whether the Sarvatobhadra base or Vimana has 4 entrances or 3 entrances normally?
4. In some of the North Indian temples, 4.
Okay, now I am talking about the Brihadeshwara temple.
Brihadeshwara only one entrance.
But it, okay, not 4.
The other 3 are Ganadwaras.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let us go to the next section. Now we are into, so we have seen 6 basic components. of any Vimana. So we are starting from bottom, and there is another component called Upapita, which is primarily a pedestal. Pedestal on which all the components are structured. One more. So this component is equivalent to the pedestal which is now available in the northern temples. It is like a platform on which the main temple is built. This is normally used in Vimanas, Gopuras, and Mandapas, primarily to add solidity to the structure, enhanced height, and sometimes if the soil is loose soil or near river and other things, adding one more layer of a raised platform is always helpful. So this is the function of Upapita. When you do in terms of calculation, all calculations in temple architecture derive from width of the Garbhagriha. The ones we see, this is the standard measure, width of the Garbhagriha. So your height and your height of the components and other thing are a function of the width. So if you have a certain width and you want to have a tall Vimana, a escape route or a side route is to add Upapita, which will be raising the height without altering the overall ratio of the Vimana. In fact, during Vijayanagara period, in their Vimanas or in their Gopuras, what they did is they did double Upapita to raise the basic height of the Gopura. That's why Vijayanagara Gopuras look very tall. This is the reason. Their Upapitas as well as their Adhishtanas are very, very high, double height kind of things. When I talk about Upapita, it has got various components. See here, this is the Upapita components. You can see the pedestal here. This is the Upapita. This has got several components. You can see one component here, another component here, one more different component, and 4 or 5 different components are there. We will go through that, but different agamas talk about varieties. Kashyapa talks about 8 varieties, Mayamata 6 varieties, Manasara, the later period, talks about 12 varieties. So as you see from Mayavata, so this is the oldest one, Kashyapa and Manasara. So as the agamas and the building technology develops, you can see more and more varieties and more complexities. So basically, this contains the components that are similar to Adhisthana, which is the next part. So we will see the components there, and we can come back and see how the Upapita looks. So we go to the second component of a Vimana, the Adhisthana. This is meaning the one on which it is placed. So the central one. So this is the Adhisthana portion of the temple, the base foundation of the temple. This I had taken from the Shakti temple in Airavateswara. There is a special reason for this, I will tell you. When you do the Adhishtanas, these are also of different types. Like Kashyapa mentions 22 types. Manasara, you can see from 22, it has jumped to 64. So various types, you will get thoroughly confused. So what I suggest, and for the beginners, is understand the components. And primarily, this is a combination of the components which makes different types of Adhishtanas. So the base one is the Upana or a rectangular base slab. Upanam is a horizontal slab. What they do is they build the base or the pedestal. Inside, they fill up the rocks and they built horizontal slabs on top of it, granite slabs on top of it. The extension of these slabs here is called Upana. This is the component extension. Upo, one level of Upana, or if you have two level, it is called Upo Upana. So this is basically when you build a house, you do the first stamping, and then you do one layer of rock or plate or something. That is this base slab is called Upana. The next function is the Jakati, or this is a kind of a platform. If you see this, what is the function of Adhisthana? Take the load of the entire temple and distribute it to the platform or to the ground. So, as per physics lab, the thing is the pressure is a function of area. So, if the pressure of the particular temple is 100 tons, and if it is handled by 10 square meter kind of a platform, the pressure will be 1 or 10. The same thing, if you slightly expand the platform where it meets the ground by another 2 meters by way of slope, then your pressure on the ground and the toppling probability gets reduced. So this is where this Adhishtanas are normally done as a slope with extending. You can see the plumb line as it gradually expands. This is the level of the temple straight line, plumb line. And from there, slowly it becomes extension so that the load is getting slowly distributed here, slanted here. So if you see from Upana, it will be slowly going inside and then normally with the plumb line. Jakati is a platform, flat or something. Here I had taken a temple where two types of Adhisthana are there for different segments. So that giving examples easy. One is a flat type. This is a flat type Jakati. And here you have Padma. Padma is a Urdhva Padma. That is like looking on upstairs. So this is two types of Jagatis. This member is called Jagati. And after that, the next member is called Kumudam. It can be three types. Either it is a convex molding, it can be cylindrical, or it can be with the three faces. The earlier ones started with three faces and then gradually expanded to 8 and 16 faces. And you have a cylindrical member also. What they do is, later period, the cylindrical, they started giving this kind of lines so that it is a collection of, it is looking like a collection of bangles. So this is the next member. Then this is more like a shoulder kind of a thing. Okay, again, you can visualize this like a human, and this is the neck part. This contains two things, and the Gundam, there is inside one, and then there is a Kambu, which is the Patika. This is the lines which are inside it. This Gundam is again split into two parts: Gantapata, which is the vertical things, and this is the Gundam. Normally, this Gantapatas are used for inscriptions, and then this is used for ornamental scenery kind of structures. The other popular area where you do a lot of inscriptions is either this flat Jagati or on a three-part Kumuda. They will write a lot of inscriptions. On top of it, the final member is the Pattigai. Pattigai is called the flat member, which is the topmost member. It is like a band, something similar to Jagati. So Jagati will be extended out and Pattigai will be at a normal, slightly extended from the thumb level. Sometimes instead of a simple Pattigai, they will be having a Kapota or a slab roof. So when we talk about Adhisthana, this is a place where lot of ornamentation takes place. Normally, when we go to a temple, okay, we keep our head high or level and see the eye level features and then have darshan and come back. Normally, nobody looks below and then enjoy the structural beauties that are available at the Adhisthana level. The other thing is you need to look up and see the beautiful structures or variations in the Vimana. So next time when you go to a temple, go with a pack of iodex or a cream. You look around up and down and other things, and by the time you look for 1 hour, you will get neck pain, and then there is a time you apply iodex. But that is required to enjoy temples in a beautiful way. Now we are seeing the 4 most popular varieties of Adhisthana. This is Padabandha Adhisthana, which is a very simple Adhisthana. The next evaluation is a Pratibandha Adhisthana. Prati means the repeated structures there. And then Padma Bandha Adhisthana. See here, the unique feature is there is no repeating yali or other sequence. Here the point is the repeating sequence of yalis. Then when it goes to the next one, Padma Bandha, there is also a repeated sequence, but here you have also a Padma instead of a normal flat structure. There is a Padma component. So it is called Padma Bandha Adhisthana. And the Upapida part is also ornamental. The most complex one is a Sri Bandha Adhisthana, where you have lot of embellishments. You have this Vari, you have this Kapota, the Kampu is ornamental, your Kumudam is with a lot of drawings, and then you have Padma. All the components have beautiful embellishment. This is Sri Bandha, and normally this is recommended and done for the topmost temples and the temple which is sponsored by the king. So let us see some examples to understand how these Adhishtanas are implemented. So the very basic one in Kailasanada, Kanchi. This is 7th, 8th century, Padabandha Adhisthana. So this is how we saw it. The ratios, there are some ratios here. When we look at, let us see this and then come to the ratios so that you have an understanding. So this is what your Upana and your Jakati, and this is your Kumudam, and this is the Gandam, full set, Gandapadam and Gandam, and this is your Pattigai. So if you see this, Upana, Jagati, Kumudam, Gandam, and Pattigai, the same design, this is getting represented here. See the amount of details and the richness that has happened in this design. From the engineering point of view, if you see this, the entire temple is built out of sandstone, which is brittle, and you have seen so much of deterioration. But still, your question should be, the temple stands and it has not fallen. Because wherever there is a load-bearing structure, you see the Upana, which is the bottommost portion, which is actually a slab spread around this. This is done in granite, not in sandstone. This is just to take the load. Then the other Adhishana components are done in sandstone. Now it comes to the topmost member. Again, there is a granite slab which goes all the way up to the. This is the technically the floor of the Vimana. So that is again in granite to take the load of the pillar and forward. So it is a mix of multiple types of stones to ensure structure. This is the engineering part. Now let us see the next example, Rajarajeshwaram big temple in Tanjai. This is the Pradibandha Adhisthana Kapota Asana Upapita. This is how it looks like. So Kapota Asana Upapita. So this is the Kapotam part and they have a Prativari and this is the Upapita part with the bands. On top of it, you have the actual Adhisthana, which is the Prati. When I say the most important feature of this is the Prati. So this is a Prati means copy, the sequence of the same Vyala or elephant or something that is getting repeated. You can see this here. This is the bottom, Kapota Asana Upapida component. On top of it, there is a Prativari of Yadis. This is where the actual Adhisthana starts. And here you have plain Kumudam. The distinguishing feature is the repeating sequence of Yadis. So that's Prati. That's why it's called Pratibandha Adhisthana. And you can see a lot of inscriptions here, which is very conveniently in Jakati portion. The next variation is a Padmabandha Adhisthana in Ganga Chodeswaram with the Vedi Bhadra Upapida. So don't remember the names, okay? See the variations and how each component is designed and structured in a different way. So names we can always remember later or refer notes, but understand the beauty or the idea or the rationale for a particular component, which is more critical to understand and appreciate the temple architecture. Here you have two components, Vedi Bhadra, Upapida. Vedi is a small platform, raised platform on top of it. That's why it is Vedi Bhadra. And you have Ganta, Kantapatham, and then inside each Gandam we have a layer. So this is Vedi Bhadra, Upapida. On top of it, you have Upanam, the base foundation, and you have Jakati. Jakati is beautiful, like a Padma. It is curved like this. See the way it is extending as a slope. And the Kumudam is a Vrutta Kumudam, is a circular one where the entire place is used for inscriptions. In between, up and down, there are more decorations like bars and then small line of Padmas. On top of it, you see the Prati, the repeating sequence of figures. But again, the earlier one also had Pratis, but it was the dominant feature here. Here, since Padma is there, Padma is the dominant feature. So it is called Padmabandha Adhisthana. Very simple. Then we go to the third variety, Airavateswara in Darasaram. This is Kapota Bandha Adhisthana with the Kaboda Bhadra Upapida. We have this Upapidam, which is with the Kapodam. Kapodam is a slanting sunshade kind of member which protects this area from rainfall. So since Kapodam is there, it takes priority over Prati. So it is called Kapota Bhadra Upapida. Since it is projected and extended, it is called Bhadram. Bhadra means projections. The Adhisthana is with the base, and there is a beautiful Padma, and then there is a Kapota, which is a new member. Instead of a flat structure, you have a Kapota. You can see this, how beautiful it is. We have the Kapoda Patra Upapidam, which is like the same structure. We have a Kapodam here, and we have the Prativari, and we have Gantam and Kantapatam. So this is the structure for Upapida. When it comes to Adhisthana, here also you have the Upanam, the slab, you have the Padmajanga, and then Vritta Kumudam, and then you have Kantam with Kantapadam. Normally, in other Adhisthanas, you will be directly going to the Vari or so here you have an additional member called Kapodam. This is a sloped roof. So this is called Kapodavantam. Instead of just having a simple base and structure, see how beautifully they have created different members and made it more beautiful and ornamental. This is the beauty of Dravida architecture. The final and the most beautiful and richest ornamented thing is the Sri Bandha Adhisthana. See the amount. Each component is decorated in a beautiful way. You can see this. Sorry for the bad quality of this one. I couldn't get a very good picture of this particular example. We have the Kapoda Batra Upapidam, same thing. The Kapoda is a prime picture. So that is called Kapoda Batra. So the sequence is only the patti is there, then it is called the Pratibatra Upapidam. And if there is a prati, it is, if you have a prati, it is called a Pratipatram. Otherwise, if a Kapotam is present, it is called Kapotapatra Upapidam. Now, on the top, you see all the members are having beautiful decorations. Your Janga is a beautiful lotus, and then this is with a lot of fine etchings, and the Kandapadam is having a lot of small structures here. In fact, in Airavateswara and in Kampahareswara, this is the area where a lot of Ramayana and Mahabharata stories are etched. Here as well as in Vedi. And on top of it, you have Kapota and you have the Vyalavadi. So this is how the four major components of Vimana look like. After this, we will briefly cover the wall portion for some time and stop at this point. So on top of the Vimana, we have seen Upapida and Adhisthana. On top of it, the wall portion is called Bitti or Kudiya. So in a Garbhagraha, the entrance Mahadwara will be there on the one side. The other three sides are closed. So these closed sides will have lot of embellishment or decorative elements in this. One is called a pilaster. This is a half pillar. This is actually, technically, it is not a pillar. It is an ornamental member designed in the wall as a part of the wall. Here, these are all pilasters. This is half wall. Only the front 50% is etched. We also have a different variety called Nakula Stamba, where the side half, instead of having the front half, the one side half is shown as one pillar is split and then put it into two parts in this area. When you have a Torana, this Torana will have two half pillars and then one Kapota on top and one small temple-like structure on the crown. Or some Toranas will have arch. This is called Koshtam. Koshtam means a recess in the wall. The Koshtam may contain, it may be blank. In the earlier one, they just put blank walls in between, or there will be some ornamental descriptions like a stamba or something, or it may be a recessed window. In some cases, it may be a Deva Kosha also. The Devakosta means this recess will be having the ideal underversion. This is a Devakosta. So we will have Jalakas also, various types of windows. We will see the various variations of Jalakas when we see Mandapas. Normally in Garbhagriha, not many openings and the three side walls will be closed walls. So there are varieties of Jalakas in Mandapas. We will see at this point of time. And Panjara. Panjara is technically a cage. So what they do is they put a cage-like structure or a mandapa-like structure on top of one or two pillars. Sometimes the pillar will be having a kumbha on bottom. So it is called Kumbha Panjara or Stamba Panjara. Now, having seen the Kumbha Panjara, there are some 3 or 4 varieties of Kumbha Panjara. We will see some examples. This is called the Vritta Sputika. Vritta means circular. This is like Sputikam. Like Lenga, a shaft, circular shaft is fit in part of the Torana. This is called Vritta Sputika. Vritta Sputika was there from 6th, 7th, 8th, up to 10th century it was there. And in later temples, it gradually vanished. Stamba Panjara. Panjara means cage, like I said earlier. So there is a pillar, on top of the pillar there is a stamba. Sorry, Panjara. This is the first development from Vritta Sputika. Instead of having just a pillar, now they are adding one more ornamentation. The next level of development is on the bottom, they add one more kumbha. And then the Panjara becomes more ornamental. This is introduced during Rajaraja period in Tanjavur. So by Nayaka period, the simple Kumbha Panjara has a lot of creepers and other things flowing out of the Kumbha. This is Kumbha is the Amruta Kalasa. This is the embodiment of Amruta Kalasa. So a lot of flowers and creepers will be perfect. So this is called Kumbhalada. See the amount of details and fineness. Instead of having 2 dimension, they have projected this one and come up to multiple dimensions and layer. So this is the ultimate development around Nayaka period. This is in Tirupati. I talked about Toranas. Toranas contains 2 top pillars topped by a Magara Torana, and then we may have a postum blank area in it, or it may be with a deity like the Mahabalipuram Trimurti caves. This is the first available Torana for us. So here we see how from a simple pillar kind of a structure, it has evolved to the most complex Kumbhalata over a period of 4 to 5 centuries. Now we see the most complex wall of the Garbhagriha. This is the Rajarajeshwaram Tanjore big temple. Now you will be able to clearly identify where is the Kumbha Panjara. This is the Panjara element. You have the Devakosta with the arch with the half pillars, and then you have Dwarapalakas. This is the Ganadwara. This is entrance like structure. And we have this is called Kapotam, the sunshade or slope roof kind of a structure. This is where the pillar ends. So this is the details of Bitti or wall. The one critical or major aspect of this component which I am deliberately not described is the pillars. So pillars are common to mandapas as well as this one. In Garbhagriha walls, they are not being the functional ones. They are ornamental as a bas relief kind of an structure only. So we will discuss pillars in detail in mandapas where they do the actual function. The final component is prastara. This is the roof component. So once you come up to the wall, normally there is a flat structure where it covers the entire Garbhagriha, and then only on top of it, the other members are structured. So the base structure is the Uttara, the horizontal beam, which runs from the pillar. On top of it, all your roof slabs will be done. Palagai is here, the horizontal cross beams which supports the crossbar. The interesting part is the Valabi. Valabi is the after the pillar portion has ended, there is a slope portion. Why it is interested is the Yali varies and all the decorations will be in this area. Vyala or other Bhuta will be usually above the principal beams. And after that, there is a joint which connects the Uttaram and roof like the rod. This won't be visible. The final, the most important and beautiful one is the Kapodam, the convex slate roof, which is ensuring that the rainwater doesn't flow into the wall and falls a little away. In some areas, the kapota is extended very long period, and it also gives some amount of protection against the sun. So the kapotam, when it is getting extended further in mandabas, it is called kodungai. So this is called kodungai. This is the normal kapotam where this is the end of the mandapam, and this is the extension of the kapodam. And in Kodungai, the convex portion turns into a convex portion. So up to this is convex, and when it have a kapodam, it again further turns like this. This is the ultimate kapodam available in Pandya country. So we are just seeing as a last slide some examples on the roof part. This is the prastara part. So in pillar, this is the end of the pillar where there is a caption or the load bearing member. It is called Podikai, and this is the Uttaram beam. This is what I talked about, Valabi. So when you look inside the Kapodam, there are beautiful series of sculptures that are available. Most people visit. This is the Kapodam, which is like an extended sunshade kind of structure. In this, there are a lot of embellishment, like one like Nasika, arch type of it. This is called Netra Nasika, and there are a lot of ornamental descriptions on this. On top of it, there is a Yali Vari, a frieze of Yalis. So this is how the prastara or the roof component looks like. One special function about Kapota is the rain part. So during rain, the front mandapa, this is a Kodungai kind of a thing. If you see this, the first part is the concave part. And then you have a convex part. This is the Kodungai part. So see how much it extends out, and then able to ensure that the rainwater doesn't drip into the mandapa. This is the functional component. The same thing, looked from an inside angle, see how much curve it is done, concave and then convex. And then inside, if you see, earlier, the wooden houses and the temples used to have this in wood with reapers. Even now, if you go to any of the Kerala temples or houses, the same structure will be there. So they have taken the same design and then done it in rock. So they have carved all these reapers, buttons, and then the nails, everything in detail in this kapota. So next time when you go to the temple, when you climb the steps here, just look on top and see underneath the kapota. You will have a lot of interesting features available. So with this, we finish the day 2, the Vimana building. So what we have seen is Upapida, Adhisthana, Bitti or the Bahar, and Prastara the roof. So with this, we complete the day 2 kind of a discussion. Any doubts, we can have a quick chat for 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Again, it's a wonderful journey for all of us. There are too many questions in our chat box. We'll go through
I
it.
could see that. See, the challenge in Google Meeting is that when I present in Zoom, I can side by side watch the conversation, and if there are some critical queries, I can immediately address it while I present itself. But in Google, they are still to come up with a feature, and I am presenting blind. Unless you scream at me, I won't know that I am making a joke of myself.
No, it's okay, sir.
Okay, so let me go through this presentation feedback. Lot of good readings, right? Siddharth, Apsidal is called elephant back. Yes. This is called elephant back, or in Tamil it is called Tunganai Mada. It is mostly in Tamil Nadu, and it is spread in some other temples in Karnataka also. The sloping roof style is seen in Rajaputana and Mughal style palaces. They have copied from this temple. No, nobody copies. These are all necessities of nature, and then it is usually developed in parallel in most of the civilizations around the world. This is nature's. This is a simple way of developing it. But many of us apply this and say that I see a slanting sloped roof in Rajasthan, so Dravida culture has been copied there. It is not so. Unless it is not linked to the particular environment, and then they have taken it from some other environment, we can say this. Like invention of wheels, it has been invented all over the place. There is no patent for invention of wheels. Indranil Bankapure, Agamas mentioned specific design of temples dedicated to specific gods. The design in terms of shapes. So Silpi says that for this type of god and other things, this type of shapes are recommended. Like Sayana Vishnu, normally the elliptical or rectangular temples are primarily to accommodate that horizontal length instead of the vertical length. Okay. When you have the main deity is having too many, this is a family group of deities, so you may have a bigger or a circular kind of. And again, depending on the type of deity, tamasa or the gunas takes place. Biddu Subramani, does parallel walls continue even above the Vimana? So there is a basic problem with the Vimana is the entire part. In southern terminology, from bottom up to the top, it is Vimana. So what it does is the walls, the parallel walls, extend up to a certain level, and the join when the superstructure, hara and other things, when it goes, it joins somewhere, and then it takes a load and splits up into two. We will see it when we come to the Chola and other temples, where I have detailed slides explaining this. Can we say that the higher the Vimana, the wider was the sovereignty of the rule pursued? No, you can't. If he invests, some of the people are small, but they have created very high Vimana. That doesn't mean that the ruler is a big one. He had a passion to build a big temple, and then that is what it is. So there is no rule saying that if you build a 200 feet Vimana, your area is around 400,000 square feet of reach. Not like that. Kudiyarasan Praveen, is there any space or any filling between the two walls? Actually, what I explained is the space. It is a Sandara where people walk, particularly in big temple. This pathway contains beautiful Chola period paintings and some beautiful sculptures in the first level. And in the second level, all the 108 dance poses are done as sculptures in the second level of the Sandara walls. The temple layout preserved as a reference in palm leaves or drawings or material. Basically, they are given as slokas. For example, Mayamata contains 3,300 slokas written in Sanskrit with the proper meter. So it will be like a song. We keep on, we can memorize and then we can talk and then we can sing. So this initially was conveyed over word of mouth, and later on it started getting written down in palm leaf. And somewhere around 15th, 16th centuries, they started getting converted, translated, and many of these agamas are available in the very old palm leaf form in the Saraswati Mahal Library in Tanjavur. Kanchan Joshi, if did the Upapita size and proportions depend on the above carvings and pillar type or Vimana structure? Basically, the Upapita size is a function of how many talas and then how big is the Karpagraha and the load. So normally this kind of rules, they say that Upapita height can be 1/3 or 2/3 or 3/4, depending on the weight of the Vimana. So these are the accepted ratios. So you choose one. It can't be 5/4 or 4/5. It has to be 3/4 or half or 1/3. So this is how the ratios are defined. The Suresh Balenahalli, if possible, show some pictures while explaining, sir. It helps understanding. I think among all the lectures, I am showing maximum pictures. I will try to add something more. Where can I get information about the story, each panel, illustration? What panels you are asking about, PK? I'm clear. I'm not clear, but I understand these are primarily on the stories, Purana stories. So you need to refer to the book on the particular temple or architecture books, art and architecture books, where they will highlight on this. Panels are engraved and then fixed. In some cases, there is a wall, there is a structure, and then they engrave in the wall itself. Bala Sethi has an interesting question. Tanjai is same as Tanjavur. Yes. We popularly call it Tanjai. And big temple, the proper name for big temple in inscriptions is Rajarajeshwaram. Anita Bembe first measured and then drew the decorative figures. So proportionate, yes. Because the decorative figures again follow the same ratio, and then whether it is 4 meter or 4 centimeter, the ratios are fixed. The ratio from head to toe, the head, body, and other things, all these things are ratios. Time limit? No. Panjara is a kind of a cage or a temple kind of an enclosure, and that is where when you put it on top of a stamba, it becomes stamba panjara or kumbha panjara or various. I showed out on the slides. possible to throw some light on the Naga door of the Padmanabha Swami temple? We will discuss it offline later. Siddharth, I have mentioned, some of the Tamil names. Vajana, Uttara, Palaka is Tamil, but you have Palaka as the other Sanskrit name. Sandara is Sandaram, Nirandaram is Sanskrit only. Vijay Lagate. Construction issues I will highlight when we come to the Chola discussions. Again, Nageshwar Rao, excellent and expansion. Thank you, sir. It is a compliment coming from you. So rest of all, appreciation. Thank you from Ojasvi, Prasanna, Manchara, Sivajana Sundari, Suryakant, Kanchan Joshi, and Ashok Bhargava. Ashok has got an interesting question. Like I explained it. There is a relationship between height of the Adhisthana and overall height of the Vimana. Both are functions of the width of the sanctum. The base plan, the width of the sanctum is the basic unit. So all the other proportions like height of the Vimana, depending on how many tala, each tala, and then your Adhisthana, Upapida, all these are ratios or times of the width of the Garbhagraha. And appreciation from Vinayak, Seema, Yoga Priya. Shataka is not a Yoga Priya, Shataka is not a principle. It is all components, 6 components of a temple. Okay. Again, that is relating to that is visualized conveniently to 6 parts of the human body. If they had 7 parts or something, or 9 parts, they might have mapped it in a different way where nose will be a separate part and then mouth will be a separate part. Again, it is convenient and convenient way of explaining and remembering and visualizing things. Sneha, Rupal, and Seema, thank you. Rupal Deshpande explained in a simple way. Thank you. I will try to make it more simple. And I cannot make it simple beyond that. This is a very complex subject. Usually it is dealt in 4 or 5 sessions, and I am trying to make it simple and focusing only on the key components. Okay. Meghana Ravi Kumar. Internal wall of the Garbhagraha has a monolithic double height volume. No, it is not monolithic. It is built on structured rocks. It is a structured temple, like bricks. They have stacked rocks on top of it and then built the wall. I will describe this in detail when it comes to Chola structure. So good.
Yes.
Good. So far we have come to this. One question from PK. Does ASA or other agencies recreate these on 3D models like realistic ones? If you see any shop outside these monuments, they sell lot of replicas, are supposed to be replicas. Okay. Beyond that, interestingly, I will share a photo later when it comes to Tanjavur. Last time when Kumbhabhishekam happened after long period with the fun and fair, for the big temple, they have created a 3 or 4 feet tall model in wood, exact replica of Pragadiswara, and they have presented it in exhibition between the first Gopura and second Gopura. That is beautiful. I got some photo shots. I will share it or I will put it as part of the presentation. But other than that, The 3D model is only now 3D printers are picking up, which is becoming a good show. In TST, we are trying to do some amount of experimentation in this. Very soon, this kind of models will come out. Thank you. It was an interesting questions, and then thanks for the support.
Yes.
So, any questions? Any questions? I will open the WhatsApp tomorrow morning for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. At the time, you can ask, and any new members who join, they can give the introduction. Okay. Otherwise, day long, it will be a distraction for everybody, and Bujang Bopade will be having a tough time managing it. So we will open the discussion tomorrow morning for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and then we will stop at that. End of today, probably you'll be getting the video in Google, and which will be available for only 2 days. So make it a point when you are fresh, read it once again, take notes, because tomorrow we don't know what kind of other activities that will come in. So better do it now when it is fresh. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for
Yes,
the support.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And thanks to all the participants also. Tomorrow we'll.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Good night, sir. Thank you.
Excellent interactions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.